Alright, let's assume this is now recording. As you can see here, I'm kind of painting. This is the artist edition, and it is the latest version of the artist, but it's not the latest build of Project Dogwaffle. So we do have a couple of other features coming. Let me erase this, and I'm recording this to MP4 right now. We'll do a test with recording to AVI as well. I don't know if we'll be given a choice of what codec to use. That would be sweet. Let's see, we have view, utilities, widgets, and then unfortunately it falls out of my recording area, but it's the option called render an OBJ, render an object. Right? So that's the latest, that's a prior version of the OBJ renderer. And what you simply do here is go open geometry. It will take you into a folder where you do see the geometry. And I have a couple here. I'm actually in a separate folder, not the one you will see, because it remembers where you were last, right? So I actually have a folder called OBJ2. Yours will be foliage. No, there will be geometry. There will be a geometry subfolder where you have installed PD Artist. Or if you use PD Howler, it will be where you have installed PD Howler. There will be a geometry subfolder, and in that subfolder there will be one called test, like this one, and there will be one called foliage. And the main reason so far has been for 3D trees. So when you load one of those trees, you'll see it displayed in here. It's actually a bit difficult to see sometimes. At first it's just doing the bounding box. So go in with the left mouse button and there you go. Move this thing out a little bit, and also switch it to wireframe mode. That's a little bit more intuitive. Even when you zoomed in, you can more easily see that there is something here. So you want to zoom out, and then maybe you can use the angles here to rotate that tree. And really the purpose of this has always been at first to load trees like these, maybe keep a snapshot copy, maybe pick it up as a custom brush. Right, something like this here, saying let's make this a custom brush. Maybe cut it off at the bottom where the stem is here so that we don't have it dangling or hovering over the ground, but really right there cut off at the bottom. And so with that, now we have the tree in the brush, and you can see I'm tracking it because I have the eye here, the big eye watching me. So if I tick that, I have the eye. I can change the size of the opacity, but also the size of the brush. So it's, you can see it's that tree in the brush. And of course I can go and store and manage a copy of that. I need to go grab it because it opened on the other side of my screen. There it is. Now this is one image in the brush, but there's a thing called film strip here that opens the world to multiple images in the brush, right? This is an animated brush once you have 2 or more frames in there. So I'm going to use the exact same tool again. I'm going to go back to, was it view, utilities, widgets, and render an OBJ. It's the same tree still loaded. Right, so it's rendering over itself now because I didn't move anything. But if I rotate it a little bit, you can see I'm turning that same tree off its initial position from the prior time I ran it. And you can give it a different angle, or you can maybe move it a little bit sideways or tilt it to the front or to the back. There's many different ways you can make it just a little bit different, and then suddenly have a much larger amount of foliage in that tree here. But that brush can also be moved around. I mean, the tree can be moved around here. You can render that, and then once it's rendered, you can pick that one up as a custom brush. Now, it would be nice if we could do that without having to physically pick it up from this image, because now we have 2 trees, right? And so that's the idea, is that we can certainly build animated brushes. And I didn't even pick it up here. Let's go and undo that, clear this tree, go back to the view, utilities, widgets, render an OBJ, and here it is. But now as I'm moving it around, it is this new image, and I can move it perhaps so I see it right here. Maybe give it yet another little bit of an angle, maybe the other over to the left. And maybe I want to make it a little bit smaller, so I move it back, moving the camera makes it appear smaller. And so there we go. Now I have this tree, and I still have the old one in the brush here, right? So, but I can pick this up as a new custom brush too. So I still have this one here that was stored, but the current brush I'm going to replace with a new one that I'm picking up right here from the custom brush selector tool, and go around here. The white background will become transparent because my current secondary color is also white, right? So it automatically keys it. It will automatically find the pixels that are white, and as you zoom in you can see now, well, especially if you have a background image of sorts. Let me render just some sort of a pattern, like render plasma noise. There you go. Now you can see the tree. You see some tessellation here, some pixels actually, ragged line, jagged lines. That's normal because it's a raster image, right? So I'm gonna go and move a copy of this brush with the small tree into this timeline here, or the film strip, not timeline, it's film strip, right? So I'm going to add a frame, and boom, now we have both images right there. Welcome to the world of animated brushes. Now, as you paint with that brush, you end up getting an alternation between these two trees, right? And you just keep adding a few more images and you'll have a full forest with trees like that. Another thing you can also do, of course, is enable the settings from the brush controls. And in the settings, you'll remember there are a number of parameters, such as to randomly position it, so it's not going perfectly along that line, right? But randomly positioning means that it's going to be a little bit off one way, up, down, and sideways, that sort of things. So if you draw now, you see that the trees are not being spread exactly the same predictable way as all the others. They all have a little bit of positioning, random size also. You can make them smaller randomly. So if you undo this and now draw it, you can see some of them are smaller, some of them are bigger. And of course, when they're close together, it's difficult at times to really see, but you can see here still. In fact, let's make it extreme. Yeah, that's the maximum. Oh no, that's the size, but the random size is right here. So you can give it an extreme value for the random size changes. You can also angle, tilt it a little bit more. I rotate it somewhat, so that's one thing. And then if I had my recording further, oh, you can see it here. There's also random hue, so the trees can appear different color or different hue. There's saturation, so they can look a little bit dimmer or darker or brighter. There's a random value. Actually, the saturation is saturated colors versus not saturated. But now you can see there's a whole forest of different fall colors starting to show here, and that's only the beginning. There's also automatic size controls and other things that we can cover, but enough for now. We see how we the old tool for loading a picture that was under the utilities, widgets, and trust me here, render and OBJ. And when you have an OBJ like this, you can bring it in and make it appear in front of whatever background image you have. Now we're going to do much more with the new version, but here is perhaps one or two other things just to give you a little bit of a sense of what's coming. If you open the geometry again, you'll see that we also had, in addition to these foliage trees, there's even a shroom or a mushroom. You have a couple of OBJ files here. And there is also a category. If you go up one level, one directory level, there's a test directory, and you should see 3 items here. There's a dragon, there's a bunny, there's a few more because I've added a few more. I also create some models with Curvy 3D. Highly recommended, nice 3D modeler. If you have never had a 3D modeler and you're curious, you might want to test that one out. It's available on Steam as well as curvy3d.com. And yeah, if you like to draw like an illustrator, think in lines, think in curves, think in cross sections, you use that to build surfaces and to model them. In fact, there's a smiley I did that way. And so that smiley face is going to come up. There it is. Oh, here's my preview. There it is. Come on, go up there. Move it in. Okay, so that's a 3D object. You can see the polygons if you zoom in close enough in wireframe mode. Of course, if it's a fast system, you can stay directly in shaded mode, and then that way you just move it and position it in shaded mode, right? So here it is, smiley face created as a 3D object, simply drawing a line. I just drew the line here and it creates this tube, and there's many other even more sophisticated shapes it can create. Then you can turn it into meshes if you want to do some sculpting at the mesh level. Very powerful, very intuitive and powerful tool. But there are a couple of others too. You have the bunny, you have a little dragon. Let's see here, we have a bunny. So here's our little bunny, and you can certainly rotate him too. And so really that's the idea, is that you can use things like these OBJ, 3D OBJ object files to render them, display them at different angles, different sizes, and then put them into a brush or composite them directly on top of a background, right? If you want this bunny to eat away at this nice little piece of cauliflower here, or whatever that tree actually is. You can also see one more. There's a dragon. Come on, where's my dragon? Oh, the teapot. You cannot claim to do 3D unless you see a teapot. And in fact, I have a modified version. This one here has a ground floor. That's the one you have. Right, so that one has a little tile, a little plaid pattern, a brick pattern on the teapot itself, and then it also has a little bit of what shall we call it? A little bit of a floor with a tile pattern, and that's that. All right, so welcome to 3D. It's not the absolute best ever, but it's getting there, and you will see it's very functional and powerful, and it will enrich your artistic creativity very significantly. I'm sure of it, and we look forward to show you some examples. This time I would recommend you get into PD Howler, the latest version 2023, even though the next feature I'm going to show you, you don't have yet, it's not released yet, but I want to give you a sense of what it's going to look like, and gradually new features being added. So it's a good time to learn along, and maybe you get the one on Steam. Do let us know. We have a group on Facebook. You can comment here on YouTube if you see it on YouTube. There will be a couple of places where we encourage you to contribute and to be excited with us. All right, you have a good day. See you next time. Now, if I only could figure out how to stop this recording. It's not that. That's the challenge, is to find the shortcut. Remember the shortcut key.